So I don't know how large of a Catholic audience I have. I am formerly a Catholic. I was born and raised into the Catholic faith. I've since abandoned that faith as a Roman Catholic. And I want to speak to a few things regarding the Catholic Church. And this might be completely just nobody's interested. I find it interesting, even as now a non-Catholic, even though I was born Catholic. The Second Vatican Council, which happened between 1962 and 1965, fundamentally changed that church. And it altered some of the core doctrines and teachings and practices within the church. And to me, it was the result of modernism rearing its ugly head for about the better part of a century and a half, and finally coming to its culmination in the 1960s, radically changing the church. Just a little bit of backstory about me. About 4 years ago, I did return to the Catholic Church, and I was doing these mental gymnastics of being, I didn't agree with the things of the modern day Novus Ordo, new order, the new church, the new Catholic Church. Since 1969, I never agreed, and that there was a break, a discontinuity of faith, of teaching, of morals, of doctrine, of practice and liturgy, from the pre-Vatican II Church to the post-Vatican II Church. And I was doing these mental gymnastics, and it got so tiring. Anybody who studied it for within any detail understands what I'm talking about. But the post-conciliar church is a church that has become just like the world, doesn't understand the gospel, thinks it's all about peace and love and singing Kumbaya and just being friendly to people and allowing all forms of sinner and heretic to come and participate in the church and popishly declare them to be a Catholic and saved and all of this. Now, I'm not getting into the whole, if you're familiar with the Protestant Catholic debate and the differences they have and why those differences exist, I'm not getting into all that. As a Protestant now, I don't really want to get into all of that at the moment. I can in a later video. But you see the tradition. I was going to be a traditional Catholic, going into that mode, even possibly becoming a priest. And really not being able to square this idea of Jesus said the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, yet here we are, and the church seems to be gone or in hiding. And did the gates of hell prevail? What has become of this? There's only a remnant, it seems, of traditional Catholics, say Sede Vacantis, those that believe the chair of St. Peter is vacant. We haven't had a valid pope since 1958 with Pope Pius XII, because every pope since then has spouted off heresies, blasphemies, just wholly unbiblical doctrines. But there was that break, the discontinuity, traditional church versus modern day church. Read the CCC, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, put out in 1992, and you see that, you read that parallel to the Roman Catechism, which came out at the Council of Trent in the 16th century. And you see such stark differences in how communion is to be taken, who it is to be administered to, who is considered a heretic, who is considered a schismatic, who has anything in fellowship to do with the church or with Jesus Christ and who doesn't. And fast forward to today, it's just everybody is basically saved and going to heaven, and it is a universalism where the heaven is open and it's going to be every person, no matter how bad a sinner, no matter how much they rejected Jesus or his church, they are going to heaven. And that doesn't square with the history, Catholic Church history, and Christian history. But I left that. I mean, so Catholic dogma notwithstanding, I have a problem with the Marian dogmas. Two of the Marian dogmas, and since I do have a problem with that, I cannot be a Catholic. You know, the Assumption of Mary and the Immaculate Conception, I don't see as biblically valid, and even in the tradition, I don't see as valid. But the Catholic Church the reason I bring up this topic of the Catholic Church is because, to me, it does resemble authority. It did at one time. It still kind of does. But it resembled authority. It resembled truth. It had the truth, right? We think it did. But it spoke with that person of authority, structure, order. This was the final say. And that went on for, about a century, or about a millennia and a half. Nowadays, it's so loose and flexible and lukewarm on everything. Why would you take anything it says with any grain of seriousness? And that's why, to wrap up this, is to say authority matters. You got these Christians in the world today who say, I'm just spiritual, or I don't go to church, or this or that. They don't want any authority over their lives. If you don't want authority here on earth, you're not going to want it in heaven. You're not going to want the fellowship of other believers in heaven. You're not going to want God basically reigning on the throne in heaven. You're not going to want that if you don't have it here on earth. If you don't want it or have it here on earth, there's not going to be this sudden change when you die. It's not going to be that way. And so it all comes back to authority. And like I said at the outset of this video, I'm arguing as if I am a Catholic, perhaps. I'm not anymore, but just in the traditional sense, because it's interesting to me, this idea of authority, and how man said, no, we don't want that authority. We want to be our own expositors of truth, this and that, and take on the authority for ourselves. Well, with that comes heavy responsibility and heavy consequences, and I sure don't want those. Anyway,